You know that feeling when you completely lose track of time falling down a Wikipedia rabbit hole about, like, how zippers were invented? Or maybe that sudden relief when you finally put the exact right word to why you've been so frustrated all morning? Or even just the feeling of stopping to crouch down on the sidewalk because you noticed a really cool, intricate patch of moss. On the surface, these sound like completely random, unrelated moments, but as we're going to see in this explainer, they actually share a hidden, scientifically backed thread that can fundamentally change how we experience the world.
So, what does actually connect curiosity, resilience, gratitude, and awe? Well, recent research in psychology and neuroscience points to a really surprising relationship between these four entirely distinct practices. And the best part? They turn out to be some of the most reliable cures we have for the sheer exhaustion of modern life, because they all do the exact same thing to your brain.
The thread linking every single one of them is that they completely quiet down your brain's default mode network. If you're not familiar, this is your brain's self-referential machinery. It's the me network. It lights up when you're planning your day, worrying about the future, or rehearsing some argument in your head while you're in the shower. And look, it's totally vital for survival, but being trapped in it 24/7 is just draining. The practices we're diving into today are essentially the keys to briefly turning the volume down on that network.
To see exactly how this works, we're going to walk through four really accessible gateways: curiosity, resilience, gratitude, and awe, and then wrap it all up. By loosening the grip of all that self-focused thought, we allow the real world to press in again. Let's just jump right into gateway number one: curiosity and the pleasure of not yet knowing.
The famous economist, George Loewenstein, described curiosity as an information gap. It's basically a kind of cognitive deprivation, a tiny nagging ache you feel when you suddenly realize something is missing from your mental map. Your mind glimpses the edge of an idea and just desperately wants to fill in the blanks. But here's the thing, it's not about knowing absolutely nothing. You have to be right on the lip of knowing. In a really fascinating 2014 study out of UC Davis, researchers found that when people are in this exact state, like when they're super curious about a trivia question, their brain's dopamine reward circuits literally light up. It's the exact same region that responds to a good meal or finding $20 in your pocket. And even crazier, your hippocampus becomes so incredibly receptive in that moment that participants were remembering totally unrelated faces that researchers just flashed on a screen. Curiosity literally forces your brain to leave the front door wide open, letting all kinds of incidental information just walk right in.
But we have to be careful here, because not all curiosity is created equal. Researchers actually divide it into two types. First, you've got I-type curiosity. This is that joyful, magnetic pull towards something interesting just for its own sake. Think of spending a Sunday afternoon reading about the history of glassblowing. Then, on the flip side, you have D-type curiosity. This is that uncomfortable, anxious, itchy compulsion to figure something out, like waking up at 2 a.m. wondering if you actually locked the back door. Both types help you learn, sure, but only I-type actually feels good. And unfortunately, as we get older, we tend to drift way more into that anxious curiosity, using questions just to perform competence rather than to explore. So, how do we get back to that healthy, joyful I-type curiosity? Well, you might try keeping a question journal for all those random thoughts that flicker through your mind during the day. Or, here's a really fun one. Use the 5 whys technique, borrowed straight from engineering. Next time you run into a mild annoyance, just ask why 5 times in a row. Each why pulls you one layer deeper until you suddenly arrive somewhere completely unexpected and genuinely interesting. It's a great way to remind your brain that the world isn't out of cool things to show you. All right, moving on to gateway number 2, resilience and experiencing the full spectrum of emotion.
Now, if you spend any time at all on social media, you've definitely seen the good vibes only aesthetic. But Stanford psychologist James Gross has spent his entire career studying what we actually do with our emotions, and he found that real, genuine resilience is the messier, honest opposite of toxic positivity. He points out 2 main strategies we use. The first is cognitive reappraisal. This is when you interpret a situation early on, like realizing the guy who cut you off in traffic isn't executing a personal vendetta against you, it's just traffic. That safely lowers your negative emotion before it peaks. But the second strategy is expressive suppression, which is just violently clamping down on the emotion once it's already hit you. Gross found that suppressing just hides the outward signs, while your internal stress actually skyrockets. Worse, if you constantly suppress the bad stuff, your emotional muscle closes up against everything, including joy. To combat this, we need what neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett calls emotional granularity. This is absolutely crucial. It's the ability to precisely distinguish between your feelings. So instead of walking around with just two basic clunky settings of good or bad, highly granular people can pinpoint exactly what's going on. They know if they're feeling weary or indignant or maybe wistful. Naming your feelings with that kind of precision makes you far healthier and way less reactive. Why? Because you are giving your brain highly actionable information on exactly how to respond.
A super effective way to build this genuine granular resilience on the fly is a technique developed by Tara Brach called RAIN. It's such a brilliant, simple framework. First, you recognize the feeling. Then, you allow it to just be there without fighting it. Next, you investigate its texture, like where do you actually feel it physically in your body. And finally, you nurture yourself with the exact same kindness you would offer a good friend. It takes maybe 3 minutes. You're not forcing the feeling out the door. You're just sitting in the room with it long enough for it to do its work.
That perfectly sets up our third gateway, gratitude, and how it creates a literal shift in your physiology.
Let's be honest, a lot of people quit their gratitude journals after about 2 weeks because it just starts to feel like a chore. But if your practice feels flat, it's a failure of method, not a failure of gratitude itself. Look at this quote. It hits the nail on the head. Gratitude and anxiety run on entirely opposite branches of your autonomic nervous system. Activating genuine gratitude raises what's called your vagal tone. That's your vagus nerve's physical capacity to tell your body to chill out. Your heart rate slows down, your breathing deepens. You can flicker back and forth between gratitude and anxiety, sure, but you cannot physically hold both in your body at the exact same time. Even just 30 seconds of true gratitude can stop an anxiety spiral dead in its tracks.
But here is the trick. It has to be highly specific. Your brain treats generic labels and specific sensory experiences entirely differently. If you write, "I am grateful for my partner," your brain just sees a label. Nothing happens. But if you write, "I am grateful for the exact way her shoulders shook when she was laughing at the dog last night," you are reliving an experience. To tap into those massive physiological benefits, you've got to notice deeply. Try the 3 good things method, where you write down specific things that went well and why, or go all out and write a detailed gratitude letter to someone who completely changed your life. And finally, our fourth gateway, awe, wonder walks, and the magic of the small self. Psychologist Dacher Keltner defines awe as that overwhelming emotion we feel in the presence of something vast, something that just doesn't fit into our current understanding of the world. And it's not reserved just for standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Vastness can be looking up at a towering oak tree, hearing a brilliant new idea, or witnessing a stranger do something incredibly kind. Experiencing this vastness triggers a state researchers call the small self. It's that wonderful, freeing sensation of being incredibly small, deeply connected to a larger whole, and suddenly totally unbothered by your own mundane worries. Neuroimaging shows that when you experience awe, that exhausting default mode network we talked about earlier, it entirely quiets down. Rumination fades out. Experiencing awe even lowers pro-inflammatory cytokines in your immune system. It is literally healing you from the inside out.
And the best part is, you don't have to book a flight to the mountains to get this. A really cool 2020 study from UCSF working with older adults proved that you can trigger these profound benefits on demand with an embarrassingly cheap intervention, just 15 minutes. Researchers asked the participants to take a 15-minute walk once a week, actively looking for wonder, and had them snap selfies along the way. Over the 8 weeks, not only did their daily distress plummet, but get this, their selfies actually physically changed. Over time, their own faces took up less and less space in the frame, while the beautiful world around them grew larger. No way, right?
You can literally do this today by taking a wonder walk. The rules are simple. First, leave your phone at home, seriously. Second, walk just a little slower than feels natural. Try to notice something vast, beautiful, or even just strange. Most importantly, look up. We spend so much of our lives looking down. Observe the intricate textures of a leaf or the architecture of a building you've passed 100 times. And if something catches your eye, let it stop you. Remember, there's no destination here. The entire goal is simply to train your attention outward.
Which brings us nicely to our conclusion: building your soft architecture.
Let's pull this whole thread together. Whether you're leaning into a fascinating information gap with curiosity, building out your emotional granularity, practicing hyper-specific sensory gratitude, or just taking a slow wonder walk around your neighborhood, they are all achieving the exact same goal. They soften the ego. They offer you the profound physical relief of not having to be the only thing in the room. By practicing these, you are building what we call a soft architecture of attention.
This isn't some rigid, punishing discipline you have to master. It's just a quiet, ongoing choice to let the world matter to you in small, specific ways every single day.
Now, you absolutely do not need to overwhelm yourself by trying to tackle all 4 of these tomorrow, but I do want to leave you with a quick challenge. Pick just one to try this week. Actually, maybe pick the one you felt the most resistance to while we were talking. Because at the end of the day, so much of the exhausting of modern life comes from being trapped inside our own heads. Think about it. What might happen to your baseline stress, your creativity, and your daily joy if you intentionally allowed yourself to become small again? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I genuinely can't wait to see what you discover out there.